So Dan,
Okay, pursuant to 23 bill extending several COVID era. Is there a problem?
your screen is frozen, but the audio is coming through.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 bill extending several COVID era policies and programs by allowing virtual meetings to continue from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing / meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website, www.nortonmediacenter.org, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you, Dan. So we have a full board tonight participating. First is myself, Julian Kadish, Chair. We have Lisa Carosa, Vice Chair, and Dan Pearson, Clerk, as well as Joseph Carvalho, Tom Vest, Mark Fernandez, and Paxton Halsell. I think I got everybody there. And we also have John Thomas, our director, and our assistant, Megan, are up participating. So our first new public hearing is file number 250-1157 concerning a septic system upgrade at 39 Antone Drive. Do we have a representative of that project?
Yes, my name is David Clinic. Good evening, everyone. I'm from Collins Civil Engineering Group.
You probably have screen sharing capabilities at this point.
All right. I can share my screen here. And if you can let me know that you see the plan in front of you.
We see it. You'll just have to
we can
expand it a little bit, right? Enlarge. That looks good.
All right. So I'm here tonight to file an NOI with 39 Antone Drive for a septic repair. And I can go over the plan quickly here with you and answer any questions you might have. There is a stream on the very south side of the property. The high water mark was delineated by Brook Monroe. We have a wetland line that pretty much surrounds the property in green, and that was also delineated by Brook Monroe. And so we have an orange line here. You can see this orange line. This is the 50-foot buffer to the wetland line. And we have the purple line as the 100-foot buffer to the wetland line. These two blue lines are the 100-foot riverfront area and the 200-foot riverfront area. The proposal is to abandon the existing septic system, which is these trenches here. They have failed. And this tank here, we're going to abandon the septic system. We'll probably have to remove some of the remove the tank because our new tank will be right on top of a portion of it. But the field we're not going to touch. We're just going to abandon it in place with a distribution box. It's in a grassed area, and it will be abandoned. We're going to do a 2-compartment tank. And this is all gravity flow. and it will flow into a new stone and trench leaching system. They seem to work the best. It's kind of old-fashioned stone and trench, but they last forever and they work great. And that's what we're proposing here. We're going to have a limit of work line, which is this red line. And this red line is going to surround the limit of work, and it's pretty much going to start at the corner of the house, move around the area. This is all grassed area, by the way. This is all lawn. Now here, this is kind of wooded here, but we're gonna have to remove some of the woodland right in this corner. But we're proposing the limit of work line to come up and come over to the shed here. The septic system itself will be completely outside the 50-foot buffer. Here's the 50-foot buffer here. It is going to be 68 feet from the wetland and 89 feet from the riverfront area. The limit of work will be 53 feet from the wetland area, as close as it gets. There is a driveway here, which will be our access into the property. And we're going to put a erosion control fence along the driveway. There will be trucks entering the driveway here and moving around to the back. And this will be in place to protect these wetlands on this side of the property. There is a catch basin here and a catch basin here. There will be silt sacks set in those catch basins. The street will be cleaned every day. We have notes for the street being cleaned every day after the work is done. And this is pretty much it. It's going to be a pretty flat system. You can see elevation 50 right here, and the top of our system is right at 50, and it will drop off in the back. Here's 49, so it's going to work almost nice with the grades that are out there. That's about it. We have a nice existing deck, and we want to keep that intact. But we can do that and keep it a gravity fade and still meet all the Board of Health requirements as well. The house was built in '95, and so it kind of precedes the riverfront area, but we do meet the criteria for the riverfront area in the Wetlands Protection Act.
All right, you're ready for questions then?
Sure.
Any questions from commission members?
I have several.
Okay, sure.
Where is the equipment going to access? I assume from the left side of the house and
Yeah, the equipment.
on the left side of the house. And then if so, are there any trees that need to be taken down there? Because
There's one tree here, but we can get around that tree. There's about 20 feet in between the house and the tree. So that's the only tree that would be in question, and we can get around that tree. All the equipment's going to be coming in off the driveway and then around the corner of the house, hugging the house. It will all be on pre-disturbed grassed areas.
So, I mean, I understand you can't put tree protection. So normally tree protection to save the roots of the tree has to go with a drip line, and it doesn't look like you can do that here. So I would ask that you put some type of barrier up so that the contractor, hugs that side of the house side and not the tree side.
Yeah, maybe we could put some orange stakes around the base of the tree to keep them away from the.
Well, not the base, because that's giving them too much space. Yeah, that's giving them too much space. So I would measure 20 feet from, did you say the house?
Yeah,
there?
the corner of the house.
Yeah, and then give them that space.
There is a paved driveway that comes out to the end here, and we're going to use that quite a bit to get to the back. So there's already pavement right here, and we'll utilize that to access the back of the house as well.
Okay. You just have to instruct the contractor. You might know that, right?
Sure.
But you got to articulate that on the plan set. The next thing is there any way to relocate that system so it's out of the inner riparian zone? If you shifted it to
The
the
soils,
south?
we put the system where the soils are, and we have to have the system within the percolation test.
But you didn't perk further south, though.
The soils don't work very well up here, and if we move it this way, we're going to be closer to the 50, possibly in the 50, and we're going to be taking out more woods.
Okay, yeah, that was my question, is that if you do move it, because, you're supposed to look at alternatives to minimizing the intrusion in the riverfront. So if you could, walk us through that. So if you were to shift it south, you would potentially have to cut down additional trees, whereas it looks like most of it now may be on lawn.
It is on lawn.
Okay, and then how much space are you using between the southern end where it says liner end and the limit of work there? It seems to go up to that tree.
This tree
The-
here,
No, to the south.
to the south.
Yeah.
This tree,
And do you need all that space to construct it?
We're
We're trying to limit the footprint. That's
Yes.
all.
Once you set these in stone, you like to have a maneuverability on at least three sides to backfill it. You don't want to travel over the system. This is very important. You don't want to compact anything around the system, so we're trying to leave them enough room to come over here, add some fill, because they're gonna have to fill with loam and seed and put topsoil on. And if we can do that so that they can get around three sides of it, the system isn't gonna be compromised. So we kind of want to give them a little bit of room to maneuver a machine around there, to dump material there if we have to. I
Okay.
suppose we could move it a little bit closer, but it really is, we could probably move it a little bit closer here and here, but
Does that start to interfere with those larger trees? And then how many trees are you taking down in riverfront there?
we're taking down no trees in the riverfront area. No trees.
Okay, so
Oh,
that
no,
tree at
I'm
the-
sorry. We're not going to take down any trees in the 100-foot riverfront area, and we're going to take down 0 trees in the 200-foot riverfront area. No trees.
Okay. And then the last comment I had was your sediment control detail
Yes.
has the stake going through it, and that's really, you need to put it on the outside of it, because once you drive the stake through it, it compromises the material. So if you look around, a lot of the manufacturers now have the stakes on either side of it, or one side of it at a 45-degree angle. And
Sure.
just if you could change that, that would be great.
Yeah, I have actually seen where they put stakes on both sides of the wattle, and then
Yep.
they crisscross it with rope.
Yeah.
And that keeps I've seen that method as well.
Once you put the problem is, once you put the stake through, it compromises the netting, and it compromises the filling. From the get-go, there's a hole in it, so it's not very effective, and it degrades quicker. So, thank you.
Any other questions from commission members?
I have a quick one. Are there
Sure.
gonna be any materials stored on site, or is this gonna be worked out of the back of the truck?
There will be, because we have room in this area, there are probably materials dumped on site, but removed immediately. So it's either gonna be dumped on site or piled on site and removed, or dumped on site and used. But it will be fast. It will be, a day or, a day, someone shows up and dumps something, we'll spread it that day.
Okay,
So stone, and backfill material and loam and seed for stabilization. That will be dumped on site, but it will be spread immediately.
all right, thank you.
John, any comments about this?
The only thing that I actually did some research on this property, and I pulled a file, I actually got through with the building department. The deck on the property, I think it was installed after the Rivers Protection Act. So that should be incorporated into the cumulative riverfront disturbance for the site. If there's a new buyer or a new owner, they're going to have to make sure to have that on record for them if they want to do any new work to the property. So I guess, David, if you could just, send me over a calculation of what the square footage of that existing deck are. I mean, we can put that into the calcs, if the commission would choose to, close and issue an order of conditions on this.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. Based on the size of the septic system, that was about 1,400 square feet. I would say the deck is not much larger than that, but I can get those numbers to you.
Okay, good.
All right, so any questions from any participant in the meeting on this project? So if not, it seems like you implied, John, that there's enough information provided that we can go ahead and close tonight and generate an order of conditions by next meeting.
If the commission is amenable to closing and issuing an order of conditions, we can do that for the next meeting.
Yeah, I would just ask that you update the sediment control detail, and then John Thomas, if you can add a pre-construction condition that asks them to mark out the access on the south side.
I'll put that as a finding and a condition.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can make those changes to the plan and have them, to the board tomorrow.
Thank you, David.
All right, if there are no further questions or discussion, we can consider a motion to close the public hearing for file number 250-1157.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Lisa, seconded by Joe. So roll call vote, beginning with Paxton and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
Joe and Tama.
Aye.
Aye.
Lisa and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. So we expect to vote on an order of conditions at our next meeting, which is June 24th. That completes our new public hearings. We have quite a list of continued public hearings. First up on,
Thank you.
you bet. First up on that is file number 250-1144, 0 Reservoir Street, proposal for a 14-lot subdivision. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
We do, Mr. Chair, Ned Corcoran, counsel from Milton on behalf of the applicant, and I'm joined by Cameron Campbell, who's the project engineer. I think fundamentally, just as an introductory, we debated at the last hearing on May 6th whether we would be entitled to a waiver from the standards of the town stormwater management bylaw. I think we had read that bylaw in error and had assumed that we had to be compliant with all four of the standards relative to the removal of total suspended solids and phosphorus, and in fact, the bylaw reads as an or situation where you need to be compliant with one but not four. We certainly misread that, and so we think in this case we demonstrated compliance with at least one of those standards, and your peer reviewer seems to have concurred with that with her latest email to the town. So with respect to that, I'd hand it to Cameron to sort of review where things stand, and I think we're going to probably be in a position to request the commission to close the hearing tonight and issue an order of conditions. Thank you.
How's it going? Cameron Campbell with the Solberg Sala. So the plan hasn't changed at all since the last time you saw it, because we did further research and noticed that we actually do meet the stormwater bylaw that we were asking for a waiver on. And we meet it by the 5 water quality units and the water quality tank with all the filters in it. It does 90% TSS removal and 60% phosphorus removal. So we no longer need a waiver from the Norton Stormwater Bylaw. We're still looking for, we're within the 25-foot no disturb on 3 of the outfalls, which we discussed, I believe, on the April 8th meeting, and it was in the northeast. I can bring up the plan if you'd like. Can you all see that?
Not quite yet. All right, we can, but it's your first.
Yeah, the cover sheet. Yeah. So up here in the front, we have one outfall, which is outside the 25 foot, but the grading encroaches onto the 25 foot. And then these two a little more to the west.
Dan, can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Show better detail. Thanks.
Yep. See if I can get to it. So we have the one for the rain garden, which is a 4-inch pipe. The actual outfall is outside the 25-foot buffer. The grading will have to encroach in slightly. And then we have a double tandem, two 12-inch outfall pipes from the constructed stormwater wetland, which encroaches into the 25-foot buffer. And then we have a culvert that essentially transports the runoff over from the overland runoff along the center portion of the site and just transport it back over to the wetland, which, because originally it was to not have the cutoff for the water flow, because the water flow is there naturally now. And then with the roadway, it would cut it off. So we added the culvert to keep a hydraulic connection through that area. Those are the only three sections within the 25-foot buffer, and we're open to a condition to replant any sort of disturbance for trees or whatnot, and working around the trees, and then revegetating the area that has been disturbed as well.
I think from a third condition would be willing to accept the condition that the work within the 25-foot would be done with hand tools, so that heavy equipment would not be allowed to enter into the 25-foot area. I think the areas are small, probably easily manageable with hand tools as opposed to a backhoe or similar.
So it looks like you have a retaining wall right adjacent.
Yeah.
And that retaining wall is a variable height, is that, or is it one fixed height?
It'll step slightly. It's only a 2 foot. I want to say a 2 foot difference between the top of the wall at the far end and then the low end. So it'll step up slightly as you come up, but it'll match the existing grade at the bottom side.
So can I ask if is that the top of the wall that you're showing or the toe of the wall? And did you give enough room to construct the wall? So in plan view, are we looking at the top of the wall in footprint, or is there a footing associated with the wall? I'm just trying to get a handle on whether that's the true representation of the wall limits at the 25, or it actually extends in more into the 25 because of the footing and construction of the wall.
The wall shown is it's shown as a foot wide. We're looking at the top. If it batters, it'll go, I want to say it's like 4 feet at the highest, maybe a little bit further up, a little higher up here on the top, right away from the 25-foot. So it'll batter a foot at most. So, and then,
is that gray line?
and then we have the path. Yeah, we have the pathway between the wall and the 25-foot buffer. So this
Right.
is.
Sorry, so I'm asking if that's not a true representation of how much space that you'll need to construct that wall, correct? You'll need some room on the other side of that. So right now you're showing when the wall is built, but the actual intrusion into the 25 is going to be more while you're constructing the wall. You need a construction zone over there,
Well,
I would assume.
It's a fill wall. So the bottom side of the wall, you don't need much room to build it. It's the top side that you need the room to backfill it in and put in the mesh.
So will they be working it from the upland side then?
Yeah.
So you mentioned planting trees in the location that's disturbed, but it almost doesn't make sense because you're going to have riprap and you don't want trees over the riprap or the pipe. So can you, come up with something that maybe reestablishes planting somewhere else, number one, and number two, did you look at eliminating the intrusion? What alternatives did you look at for actually eliminating the intrusion into the 25 altogether? Could the road and the infiltration basin be shifted to the left at all? Would that alleviate?
It couldn't because of the elevation. So if I shift everything to the left, it makes those outfall pipes longer, which ends up you having to be lower on the outfall. So we're maxed out for where the outfall is based on the elevation of the pipes.
Mm. John Thomas, I know we've allowed work in the 25, but that's typically for redevelopment. What about for new development? Do we have a handle on that?
I
I mean,
honestly,
so for a virgin site, I don't,
yeah, I mean, for if I'm looking at this and I see this, is that, you know, and I was doing this project, is my question would be, why can't we just outfall to the center of the site? Why do we have to outfall to the wetlands? I guess that's my question.
Elevation wise, the wetland's a low point. I mean, if I try the outfall at say riprap 4 in the center right here, you have to be around 109.4. The elevation on this site is 114 in the center. So you can't,
Okay.
there's no outfall.
Okay. So you're
it's
dealing with
probably,
you're dealing with
yes.
elevations and you're dealing with grades, and from what I remember is that you said you had to bring fill in on site, right?
Not in, a little bit, but not in this section. We're actually cutting a little in this section to make that wetland
Mm-hmm.
because it's a constructed wetland, so you want some water in it.
Right.
And the roadway is filled.
right.
But
So you
the
put in
actual-
4 feet of fill in for that roadway. So you're actually causing the issue with having to intrude into the 25 because of the fill in the road. Essentially.
For the head wall, yeah.
Well, is the wall constructed first before the fill is put in for the road?
Yeah, you construct the wall as
Yeah.
you construct the wall and backfill at the same time. So you do
Yeah.
sections and then backfill slightly, and then do a little more and backfill.
I guess my point, Julian, is the reason that the pipe extends into the wetland is because of the amount of fill. So if that road were at grade and you didn't need to bring in as much fill, the pipe could end, it would be shorter. So it's like the chicken and the egg. So
But we know that if you didn't put that much fill, the road
the
would
site
be
doesn't work.
potentially
It doesn't
flooded.
work. Yep.
Are you all set, Lisa?
Yes.
I mean, this is perhaps not a fair question, but how did you misread the bylaw? I mean, it takes a little bit of skimming to miss the ors.
Yeah, I read through that section quickly and I saw the 1 inch, which is, I kind of missed it with, I kind of associated it with the infiltration requirement and didn't realize it was part of the treatment requirement.
Well, it did throw,
It was my fault.
yeah, it did throw a lot of the discussion on its ear in this whole hearing because of your request for an exemption.
I read the same section, Mr. Chair, and I missed it as well, and so that's apologies to the commission for the time spent discussing what really didn't need to be discussed. And I know how valuable your time is, so appreciate that.
Well, no, it's not a matter of value. It's you know, it's just a lot of head scratching went into that discussion, and only to find out that it's a mistake. And I guess from my point of view, we need the reassurance of the peer reviewer that they agree that currently this design does meet the stormwater standards. And John, maybe you can help us with that, in discussions with the peer reviewer, are you completely comfortable now that, this system works as it's supposed to work?
I mean, as it pertains to the regulations, it meets all the standards, per Horsley and Witten's, evaluation. From my own kind of understanding of the town of Norton is that we've been subjected, and I've seen it all around town because I've had to go out on site visits and evaluate certain issues that we've had here in town. But, you know, we've been having a lot of significant storms more frequently the last couple of years. And part of the issue that I have is that, you know, if your system can't withstand at least 1.5 inches of rain over, 24-hour period, and you have flooding issues, then there's a drainage problem. And I've been seeing it from all the old historic projects to current, within the last 15, 20 years, some drainage systems in town. And, I just don't want to say that everything's hunky dory when I know that, there's potential for, flooding at this location, which, I just think there is potential for it. But unfortunately, the regulations say that it's okay. And for me, it's a challenge because, I know that I'm going to probably let the town know from a management side not to take on this roadway because of the potential problems that come with the whole burden and maintenance upkeep for this roadway, given that the soils are, poorly drained or have, I guess, low permeability. And infiltration might be an issue, and there might be stagnant water that sits in these areas and causes flooding issues. So, it's hard for me to basically not trying to play devil's advocate, but there's two sides of this, and I think it's important that regulation wise, yes, it meets everything, but realistic, kind of what I see on a day-to-day basis, I have concerns, and I'm gonna have concerns if the site can't infiltrate in 24 hours with 1 inch of rain.
Well, the systems aren't designed to infiltrate within 24 hours. They empty out through their outlets within 24 hours.
Right,
So
I understand, but for instance, the challenge that we have is the system that you've kind of shown is very close to Reservoir Street. And the other area that you have where it's outletting to a wetland, that's going to flood, and that's going to probably impact the neighbor next door. So that's the challenge that I have in front of me with saying that everything's okay, is that I can't be very confident knowing that, for instance, your system might have potential flooding issues because of the low permeability of the soil. So for me as a stormwater agent, it's difficult for me because I'm wearing two hats right now. One of me saying this is a concern. The other part of me as the conservation director is saying that it meets all the regulations and standards. And that's where my two roles are conflicting with each other. We're having a little quarrel. So I don't think there's any answer that I can give the commission as to, is this something that they could permit? Yes, it is something that they can permit because it meets all the standards from the conservation regulations and the stormwater handbook that Janet and Horsley and Witten have recommended. It's just I have reservations as to when this does go to construction, the potential, long-term, I guess, issues that may come of this because of the current soil conditions in this area.
Do you think of
John,
it? I'm sorry, go ahead.
is there any way we could ask them to post a bond or anything for it?
And I think that would be something that I would put on the planning board,
Yes.
because that's the surety bond they put in place for it, and the developer, and and that's the only thing that I can think of that would be able to make those kind of reservations a little bit less. Is that if there were any issues, they would be on the hook for making sure that they just fix that, if possible.
Right. So right now we're looking at a design that meets the criteria under the stormwater management standards, and the only relief they're looking for is work within the 25 in 3 locations, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Think that there is a requirement for a bond within the decision issued by the planning board, approving, subdivision.
Do you know if that includes stormwater, or is it just performance bond to construct the subdivision? Is it,
That's a good question.
yeah, I don't know if it extends to O and M.
I think it would be a reasonable condition to impose a similar bond. In this case, I know other conservation commissions do, to at least cover some portion of O and M. There will be a homeowners association that's responsible.
So I guess, John, the question is whether we ask the planning board to look into extending the bond past construction term to operation, or the commission does and we tie it to the COC. Is that something we want to undertake, or since the planning board is already going to go after a bond, we just let them do it or ask them to do it?
We could word it in a way where we collaborate together for the issuance of a surety bond.
Somebody's going to have to put a price tag on that.
Right, exactly.
Which is not going to be easy.
No, it's not. So,
But what I'm hearing is, this is now in sufficient compliance that we can consider closing this tonight. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a fair statement. I just want to make sure that, like I just said, is that we have this on the wraps for kind of understanding, potential, put safeguards basically in place, to ensure that this, is properly maintained, moving forward. And, if there are any issues, they're addressed immediately.
John,
I'm
can you
happy to
also
work
add,
with John to develop language that would be appropriate, if that's helpful. Certainly, that could be reviewed by the commission at its next hearing.
could you, is there a quantification of impacts in the 25? And we probably want to write that in our findings. And also, you mentioned tree planting, which I don't think is going to be viable in the same location, but maybe we condition this, John, that says that they come up with a tree inventory or a square foot inventory of what's going to be disturbed in the 25 and how they're going to mitigate for that.
I think that sounds like a great suggestion.
Okay.
I can submit a simple but effective form of tree preservation plan, replacement plan. We would certainly, I've just come off of a crazy development project in Milton where we had to inventory every tree within the commission's jurisdiction.
I don't think we're going to be asking for that.
But
No,
certainly
just
within the
yeah.
25-foot disturb, any tree that would be removed above caliper of say 3 inches, would be inventoried and then replaced elsewhere on site. In a location to be determined, in the field.
Well, a tree is 4 inches in diameter, just so that way that's what signifies a tree.
Okay.
So,
I've been in cases where they get 3.5 inches and over 3.
I'm gonna say 4.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything less than that is considered a sapling.
All right, so, unless there are further questions from the commission members, we can open it up to any participant in the meeting having any questions about this project. And if not, I think we can consider a motion to close. It's been kind of a long haul with this particular project.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for file 250-1144.
Second.
So we have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Mark, and a roll call vote. Lisa and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And we have Joe and Dan next.
Aye.
Joe, I don't know if you did a vote there, but you're still on mute.
You got me,
Opposed.
right?
I'm afraid you were over talked. So what was it?
Opposed.
So that's a no. You want to continue to discuss this longer? But we'll register it as a no. Paxton and Tama,
Aye.
Aye.
and I'll vote to close the hearing. So we have 6 ayes, 1 nay, and the motion carries. So we will be generating a notice of intent, order of conditions, which we will be deliberating on at our next meeting on June 24th.
So Ned, what I will do is I will start drafting something up for you. And if you want to just send me over some language, I can incorporate it and we can collaborate, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman? Okay.
Yes,
Mr.
Dan.
Chairman, can I change my vote to a nay?
Yeah,
Just,
I guess.
just so we're clear, this isn't about the project, denying the project.
All right,
This is
never mind.
Only to close the public hearing.
Never mind.
Yeah, we're just closing.
We're just closing.
So the next project is file number 250-1151, 300 South Washington Street. As I recall, pretty much everything was settled, and we held it open only because there was a 21-day period of time between meetings, and we needed to hold it open for procedural purposes. So, John, correct me unless it's my understanding that we can proceed to close this since we're considering an order of conditions tonight.
That's correct.
All right, so I can entertain a motion to close file number 250, the hearing for file number 250-1151.
So moved.
Microseconds involved. Tama, I think you got the motion, and Lisa, you're the second.
Mhm.
All right. So Lisa and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Paxton and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Tama, and who am I missing?
Joe.
Oh, Joe.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. We can consider the order of conditions later in the meeting, but the hearing is now closed. Next file is 250-1156, 61 West Main Street. Filing after the fact for Honeydew Donuts. We actually have one earlier filing that we discussed about closing the last time, but I think, John, you were tied up with another meeting at the time. So again, I don't recall that there was new information to be brought forward. Is that
Mr. Chairman, for the applicant, for Honeydew Donuts Association, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering. I do have some, I don't have, we didn't present new information before the meeting. There really wasn't much to present, but we certainly have an update that we'd love to provide and discuss with the commission on the after the fact filing, if that would be acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay, great. If it's okay, I'm going to just share my screen real quick, so I think it helps us all to look at a plan as we talk. That is the last one. This is the new one. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so yeah, just a quick recap. So the last time we were here, obviously, we did talk about some work that was performed on site, partially within the buffer zone. And we noted a couple of things. Yes, that it should have been filed to some degree. In fact, it may have possibly gotten away with an RDA rather than an NOI if it was filed appropriately, but that's neither here nor there. Primarily what happened is they increased the amount of pervious surface on the site, both within the buffer zone and outside of the buffer zone by way of adding some landscaping to improve the parking conditions and wayfinding for people going to the drive-through. So we do present that as an overall betterment to the site with regard to stormwater control and things like that. As you know, the more impervious surface we get away from, the more we promote retention on site, we promote groundwater recharge, et cetera, et cetera. So the question that came up was really the conversation focused around stormwater. Two questions. One, what is the stormwater system on site? And two, had this come forward and was filed appropriately, would there have been an opportunity for the existing stormwater site to be improved at that time? So I didn't have an answer to that the last time we met. So this is the new information that I do have for you. I went out to the site and we opened every one of these catch basins. There are 6. There are 4 along the back curb line here. There is 1 in this corner of the landscaping, and there is 1 at this location near the entrance. They are all infiltrating catch basins. There is no pipes. They don't discharge anywhere. So that's what the system is. With regard to whether or not there would have been an opportunity for a betterment of the system if this had come forward as a notice of intent prior to the work being done, with an infiltrating catch basin, a system like this, they provide great groundwater recharge. The site there's no reports of flooding, so we're good there. If they lack anywhere, it's with a little bit of water quality, especially in the way of pre-treatment. In order to correct that is a pretty solid overhaul of the system. And I would argue, or posit at least, that had that been required at the time, the applicant probably would have just withdrawn and not made any betterment to the site. So the other thing that I can tell you with regard to the existing system is this. This whole process has been brought up by the fact that this site is up for possible sale to a developer. This whole process came about to facilitate that sale. So what the plan is at this time is to move forward with a new development on this site once this process is closed out. I do represent the developer, so we will be coming forward with a completely new site design that will include a completely new stormwater system that will meet all of the current state and local standards. Just a short matter of time before we get to that point. In the meantime, the current owners of the Honeydew Donuts have agreed to clean the catch basins that are there now. Just to show up with faith to try to make some improvement beyond what they've done with the landscaping. So that's what I have to offer at the moment. I'm glad to take and answer any questions.
So it sounds like the whole issue of upgrading the current system is kind of moot from what you presented.
Yeah, if it was to be upgraded at this time, it would not be a small undertaking, and it practically, from the position that that the owner is in, it doesn't make sense. So in a very short time, we will be coming forward with something that is much more comprehensive than what you see here.
So questions from anyone?
I have concerns, yeah. Might not make sense from a financial perspective, but to have untreated runoff going directly to the groundwater is not a good thing.
Mhm.
So I completely disagree. I'm shocked that they weren't cleaning these catch basins to begin with. Like to offer catch basin cleaning, come on, that's, they should have been doing that anyway. So that's not a gift to me. Okay, that's not an improvement. They should have been doing that anyway. And we have no idea if this real estate transaction is going to take place. That's not what's in front of us right now. So I would ask that you put something together to show us what it would take to improve stormwater quality on this project. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. What I can suggest And if I was sitting on your side of this table, I would say the same thing, right? What if it doesn't come to fruition? What if there's no proposal brought before us for a new system here? Then we're kind of missing out quite at the apple. So what I might suggest to combat that is if an after the fact order was to be issued on this property, it could contain a continuing condition that would say something to the effect of if a new proposal is not brought forward within an acceptable time frame, whatever that is, something reasonable, this commission could call the owner back in to revisit this issue. And at that point, it would be enforceable. So that does give the commission some degree of leverage should they choose to allow the owner that degree of levity at this point.
So that means my groundwater quality has to wait potentially up to 3 years to get cleaned up.
I wouldn't put it quite that long. I don't believe that would.
Well, the order is going to be valid for 3 years, correct? And then they're going to, be looking for closeout. So,
Actually, because of the real estate transaction, ideally what would happen is an after the fact order would be issued, and then as soon as the appeal period was to end, we would come forward with a request for a certificate of compliance, which is why I would suggest such a condition be made a continuing condition.
well, we wouldn't issue a certificate of compliance until that work was done. At least I wouldn't.
As I said, even if it was as a continuing condition, it would be enforceable. So the commission could issue the COC if they choose to and still be protected.
All right, further questions, comments? John, any comments on this?
Yeah, this is a unique case, I guess, because this whole thing came about because of the potential sale and transaction. We pulled the files to see what the history was for the project site, found out there was some issues with the parking lot, and this is the reason why they're here. So, I can understand, Lisa's points. I can understand Eric's points. I'm just trying to think of a potential common ground where we can find some sort of resolution to, keep the, I understand both points. It's just a matter of what the commission feels amenable with this, I guess, scenario or conundrum that we kind of have is they did some after action work looking for some LID improvements for the site, and the applicant's basically stating that, this is potentially going to hold them up and they won't be able to do the LID improvements. So I think we got like a double-edged sword here kind of scenario, and I don't know how to advise the commission on this one. I guess if they feel to give the applicant good faith, or if they feel that there's more requirement needed. Now, I guess the owner is different than the applicant in this sense. So the applicant is the buyer. Is that correct, Eric?
For this particular application, the applicant is the owner. Moving forward, the applicant would be the buyer.
Okay.
The other thing, and not to cut you off, John, too, and I know the commissioner had said that 3 years is certainly too long, and we agree. We certainly, don't want to sit on this property for 3 years at all. We want to move as fast as possible. So I guess I would ask the question, if we were to entertain such a thing, what would be an acceptable time frame that we could work within?
In my view, you're asking for a de facto notice of intent. So I would say as soon as possible, because every day that you wait, this isn't high. I won't say it's a level. You have high intensity oil grease. You have a lot of people coming in here every day. It's not just, it's got a heavy use for vehicles.
So do we think that sediment trap systems for the current basins would be something they should put in as a temporary measure right now?
What do you mean sediment trap? John?
The filter socks, sorry, I apologize. Do you think that's something they should put in now? Is that gonna do anything?
No,
I'll keep TSS out of it for sure.
no, I'm looking at oil and grease right now. Does it, what do the, I mean, I assume they're not, do they at least have a hood? Do they have anything in them?
Infiltrated catch basins don't have a hood. No, they
Yeah,
don't.
right. So
And
it's even worse. So there's zero, do they even have, they don't even have a sump, right? So every pollutant goes right into the groundwater. This is what we're talking about.
I don't disagree. I would note to you, however, that, this Honeydew Donuts has been here with this exact drainage system for a very long time.
Right, and in my view, that's all the more reason to get it fixed now. It's the anomaly and nothing, once somebody comes before the commission, it is our obligation to make sure that the site is improved. And this does not constitute improvement in my eyes, because we're continuing to discharge pollutants directly to groundwater.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. My only point would be that the small amount of time that we're asking for to bring forward a much more complete design for the site would certainly pale in comparison to the time that it's been happening for. Additionally, as I said before, it does at some point become a decision that the owner has to make. And if it's not financially feasible, it likely is a decision that they won't be able to move forward. So every moment that we do spend in this conversation is another day that holds up the sale and keeps us further from getting the commission basically exactly what they're asking for, which is a much better drainage system. And again, let me say, I do understand the commission's concerns. I do stormwater peer review myself in many neighboring towns. I understand. I understand what the regulation says. I am simply trying to find a way to push this forward in both of my clients and the town's best interest. And I do believe that, giving us an opportunity to move forward with a proper site design and putting a continuing condition on it would give the commission some degree of protection. It would certainly give the commission the ability to drag the owner back in here if something doesn't happen in a timely fashion.
Yeah, but that's not the business we're in. So I would not, if I were entertain putting a condition on, I certainly wouldn't do it in perpetuity. I would give you a time frame in which to redevelop this property with the correct controls. In perpetuity is not good. We're not going to go chasing people with conditions in perpetuity. So we're going to have to come up with a time frame, John Thomas.
So I guess, I'm sorry. So what is the time frame? And correct me if I'm wrong. You're talking about conditioning a time frame?
Well, Eric's saying we put it in as a condition in perpetuity, and I disagree with that, because then it's it's open ended. We could close out the certificate of compliance. We're not going to go chasing people with a perpetual condition. That doesn't work. So it would have to be a condition that says, if it's not, I'm just throwing this out there, if it's not redeveloped, if the site's not redeveloped within 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever it is, typically it takes 9 to 12 months to do this, then we can ask them to do it.
So
I think it needs to be a direct condition, not a condition that's in the perpetuity column.
So
I guess,
Eric, can you live with a condition for 12 months?
I can definitely live with a 12-month condition. I think that's absolutely reasonable. My only question, the caveat that I have to that is this. Until the order can be closed out, the transaction to transfer this property and begin the design and permitting of a new project can't happen, which is why I would ask for it to be a condition that would last beyond the issuing of a certificate of compliance, which is why I said a continuing condition. It doesn't have to be in perpetuity. I have no problem with a 12-month limit.
So we can put it in both places then. I don't care how many times we write it, how many places we put it, right? So we put one in that if it doesn't happen in 12 months, they have to do something, and then we'll throw it in the perpetuity column as well. If that helps.
I'll tell you the honest truth from my standpoint, I think 12 months works. As long as whatever that condition says, I have the ability, well, I should say the client, the owner, has the ability to come and request a certificate of compliance from this order so that the transaction can move forward, when this appeal period expires. That allows the transaction to go through, the buyer to purchase the property, we get to work on design, and we've got a new design before you as soon as possible. And let me just say this too, the buyer, who I do represent, that's how I got involved, has already met with departments in town. He's very, very serious about moving this forward. We met with the planner, we met with the building inspector. It is a very, very serious prospect. And I have no reason to think that if we're successful with this project, it won't go all the way through.
So let me ask you this. Say we issue, and then we close it out, and then that project never moves forward.
Mhm.
Then what, we have to go after Honeydew to make improvements?
You would be dragging whoever owns that at the time back here with an order. Yes, that's correct. Which, to be, any respectable business owner, if they receive an enforcement order for some reason like this, they're going to come deal with it. I don't know that Honeydew's ever been a bad neighbor or a bad citizen in town. So I have no reason to be concerned about that.
Oh, we've been burned in the past. Don't let that fool you.
I understand that as well. Yes, I do. No, and
With promises, yeah.
no, I understand.
That's why
The
we're a little
commission
wary.
needs- The commission needs protection. I understand that. So
All right,
that's,
so John, I think we're gonna have to think this through. I think we're gonna have to use a little brain power and think this through so that our rear ends are covered 15 ways till Tuesday, no matter what happens.
With writing a potential order of conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm thinking of it in my head, and I definitely need to be in front of Microsoft Word while I write this. So
yes, yes.
why
Yeah.
don't I do this? Is that I think there's another thing on the docket this evening for 61, is it West Main Street?
Yeah.
For the COC that was done previously. Why don't I start drafting up a potential order for this project and see if I can make heads or tails of it. And for the next meeting, we can potentially close and issue a potential order conditions then for this, and we can try to make heads or tails of the discussion and what the terms of the conditions are going to be for us for this project moving forward.
But John, there have been certificates of compliance that we've issued with conditions in perpetuity.
Yes.
Is that not it?
That is correct. So for instance, we can make sure that condition that's highlighted is in a perpetual condition selectively in the issued COC. So we can do that.
and if I might add, just the idea of it being a condition in perpetuity does not negate putting a timeline on it either. At all. So it can be a quote unquote condition in perpetuity, but the condition can certainly read to the effect of, if a project is not brought forward within a 12-month period, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, I guess the question that I have, so I can draft this up correctly, is does the commission want to discuss and deliberate a time frame? 6 months, 12 months?
I think we thought 12 months would work.
Yeah, how far along are they in the design process, Eric?
We are kind of at the infancy stages of design. We haven't done soil testing or anything like that. I think it would be certainly reasonable for us to be back before you with a formal submission within 12 months. And if I know my client on this, we're going to be pushing to get it here even sooner than that.
Okay, I guess I was thinking more construction too. I mean, is this going to be a demo or a rehab? Do you know?
Both options are on the table at this time.
Okay.
I do know that no matter what it is, we would be looking at some form of expansion, which is automatically going to trigger stormwater.
Okay, so John, maybe we have to write it we have to tie it to a new notice of intent filing, not the end of construction or the start of construction, right? So we have
Yeah.
to tie it to a filing, a new filing, I think.
Yeah, the filing needs to be brought
Somehow.
forth X
Yeah.
amount of time, something like that.
Yeah.
A new filing shall be provided to the commission within 12 months, something, right?
Yeah, I think, again, I don't know where you are in the design stage, but it can take some months to get stuff together. I get it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I appreciate, you guys even entertaining the conversation with us, so thank you.
All right, so unless there are further questions, I think we've hashed things out to the point where we can close this hearing. And then consider a order of conditions for this retrospective.
So before we actually, well, we can wait till next week or next 2 weeks when we order the conditions, but we'll have to make sure to close the other COC first before we issue an order. Just want to make that known.
Well, I think that's on the agenda later in this meeting.
I know, I'm making a
Yeah,
statement.
well, yes, that was kind of the nested egg that we're gonna deal with next. I mean, at the end of our hearings. Further questions, comments? If not, we can entertain a motion to close the public hearing for file number 250-1156.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Mark. So, Joe and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Tama and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Paxton, and is it Lisa? Is that where I am?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. Thank you, Eric. We'll be dealing with the other one a little
Yes.
later.
Thank you all, and again, I do really appreciate the commission's willingness to work with us on this. I know it's an unusual case, so thank you all for your consideration.
Thanks for coming in.
So next up is 0 Crane Street, a total of 3 files, 250-1152, 53, and 54 that we have previously been discussing as a unit. And do we have a representative who can clarify the
Yes.
outstanding discussion, outstanding information?
Hello, it's Evan Watson here with W Engineering.
Okay.
So take it away.
Take it away. I mean, maybe, I know we discussed the issue of potential vernal pool, and it will be treated as a potential vernal pool. We discussed the issue of stormwater management, and I thought that was resolved. And I see there's a new wrinkle with regard to some possible road work, maybe, but that's more in the realm of planning, I think.
Yes, so let me just put the plan up on the screen so we can so I'll flip over to the plan here. So I did, since the last meeting, I did provide a little bit of additional information. There was a concern that was brought up. We have construction entrances leading to the lots, and we had one that was going to the abutting property. And it was brought to our attention that there was some other people with interest in that, with conservation permits, etc. So we eliminated any access from this site completely at all. So we removed that. The other thing that was brought up was there was a small depression here in the front of this lot A. And we provided the ILSF calculations to basically show that no stormwater is generated from this site during the 1-year storm, and it's not of a size that would meet the criteria. So we I detailed both those criteria there in that letter. We don't meet that as a vernal pool, as a ILSF rather. Yeah, and then as you said, Mr. Chairman, we did receive a positive letter from the review consultant regarding our stormwater. And then we did receive a letter from the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife that said they do not consider this a take as designed here on the latest revised set of plans. So with that, I believe we have all of the issues relative to conservation wrapped up, and I was hoping to ask the commission to close the hearing.
I'll add, Evan, that you did provide us also a memo regarding the vernal pool. Do you want to speak on that? I don't know if that was discussed last meeting.
Oh, yeah, we did. We talked about it. And yeah, so, and you were correct, John, that even though our memo indicates that we did not find enough indicators here to classify this as a certified vernal pool, there is still, there are indicators there that there's some vernal pool-like features. So we wouldn't mind, even if the design has been revised to essentially treat this as a vernal pool anyways, where we've eliminated any discharges to it. We've relocated the driveway as far as possible away from it. We're using BMPs that are appropriate to be used, near that. So in our minds, if you want to treat it as a potential vernal pool for, the future, that's fine. The way it's been designed accommodates that.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns was that the examination of this area was not in the ideal time frame to determine truly whether it's a vernal pool.
So
I think-
vernal pool investigations are performed from March until June. So if they performed the investigations during that time frame, then they should be within the guidelines and criteria for certifying vernal pools per Natural Heritage. Is that correct?
So even though it occurred kind of late,
When
I
did
think that
when did you do the evaluation?
I think it went into the first week of June. It was
There were
slightly late.
two dates, April 19th and
Yeah.
May 2nd.
So April and
Okay.
May, right? So April and May, that's well within, that's in the middle of the vernal pool season. So majority of the egg masses or sort of indications that you're going to see are going to be in that time frame. You maybe see some juveniles that are hatched during that period as well, depending on when the eggs were laid. But I'd say that, from the indications of when you did the evaluation, it looks like you were within that time frame of doing those evaluations.
So is this Evan, is this the set that we're approving, and did you label that potential vernal pool anywhere?
I did not add a label, but if to your purview, we can add that to
Well,
each one.
yeah,
if you
because
like.
then it'll never match the order of conditions, right? We're looking at the order of conditions and it says there's a potential vernal pool, but yet it's not labeled on the plan. So you got a major disconnect there. So if you could please label it on the plans, and then I guess it would be considered just a PVP, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if the order describes the potential vernal pool as the wetland, from flag A1 to A such and such, that's fine. And, as a condition, we can add that label to all the plans without an issue. That's fine.
I usually double provision those if it's not clearly labeled on the plan, just so for the commission's benefit, I do include the numbering of the flags for certain wetlands. I guess the other thing to make known to the commission is that this project will involve a substantial amount of earth removal. And I found out something that I didn't know, is that within the zoning bylaw, there are some provisions for ensuring that the project meets the criteria of being at least 50 feet away from a wetland when they trigger the need for earth removal permit. So did not know that, found out that the other day. So that's interesting. And that is something that we need to potentially take into consideration as we move forward with understanding because that is a further restriction than what we allow for. So
So John, what constitutes earth removal in Norton? Is it a
that's-
certain,
that's a good question. It's the amount of I don't know, Evan, you want to touch upon that? You probably have so much information.
Yeah, so in the town of Norton, if you're going to remove more than 500 cubic yards of soil, be it incidental to your site or not, you're supposed to go to the planning board and obtain an earth removal permit. And then there's two types. There's essentially one for the purpose of building something like we are here, and then there's another level where it's just for the purpose of generating a
material?
resource, material.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that they have in there, and you can see, like, that's why we provided these cross sections, because that was a requirement in the submittal requirements. We have our test pits, all that type of stuff. So I think a lot of it reads as if we were going to take a site and basically make like a gravel pit and leave, like, what kind of provisions are there. Obviously, you want to be more protective of the resource areas and things like that during those times. And then there's, bond where you have to make sure you reestablish ground cover, et cetera, et cetera. And to be honest with you, I don't know if many people actually do apply for the earth removal permit when they're going for it, just like, some single family house lots or not. But my client wanted to make sure that he, had everything in place, to make sure we went through the zoning bylaw and made sure we wanted to file for all the permits that we needed.
Yeah.
How much are you removing?
I'd have to look it up in the,
Just
I can,
curious.
yep, I can get that. It's in the other file that for planning.
So I believe my understanding it's 500 cubic yards for this type of development. And then it's for a single family residential, it'd be 50 cubic yards. So just to kind of keep that in the back of your heads when we look at projects and we can, let applicants know.
So John, we should probably add that to our checklist to ask them to provide the amount of material.
Yes, and
Correct,
it's on our checklist on our online application form. I did add it over there, so if they are going to be removing fill, it's one of the questions now.
Okay.
It's 22,000 yards approximately.
22,000. So this site was previously used for gravel removal, is that correct?
Yes, there was, this road that came in, and when you look at the site, I mean, the topography is severe. We're going from here's elevation 90 to elevation 65 in the wetland, but it's not just one constant slope. It's all up and down. There's ridges that run through it, then there's holes. So it would be impossible to use the site without more or less smoothing it out. Or even the road. You can see here the existing topography where the house is at about elevation 85 and the road is at 73. So it's all over the place.
All right, so as I understand it, these three hearings that we're taking as a group can be considered for closing tonight.
That's
my
correct.
request, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. I think that's what's on the docket right now. I know that just to kind of advise the commission is I believe Lot A, which is not currently within the Conservation Commission's purview, may be in discussions with the town at a later date, I guess with the planning board and the highway superintendent. I guess they have some questions pertaining to that blind curve. So I just wanted the commission to be aware of that, in the event that, for instance, work was going to be done on that lot, it would not have to basically coming back in front of us unless the alignment was going to be within 100 feet of the resource area, which from my understanding is that's not potentially something that they're looking to do. So, but if they do, then they'll have to come back for a potential refiling. So.
can we just circle back 1 second to that construction exit? So you can have 22,000 cubic yards. That's a boatload of truck trips. What is the length of your construction exit? Because we have tremendous amount of tracking in this town. So you're going to have a number of truck trips in and out of there. So, probably going to have to street sweep this one.
Mhm.
And what is the
Yeah.
length of that exit?
I think we have it shown as 50 feet on the detail.
And what's the stone size on that?
3 to 5 inch crushed stone.
Okay.
So a
so-
large diameter stone.
John Thomas, I think we're going to have to add street
Yeah.
sweeping as a condition.
I'm making a
Okay.
note in my notes right now for adding
Okay.
street sweeping. Yep.
I'm just saying if it's yeah, there is that was a concern of the planning board as well, you know, because and in their requirements to apply, you do need to so we did put it on the plan, not to say that it shouldn't be a condition, but I just want to let you know that we thought about it and it's in multiple places too.
So we
Yeah,
did-
that's not a
so-
really
so-
great that's not a great note. That does not mention the word street sweeping. What does it say? Clean spillage. That's not a great directive to a contractor. It should say.
Okay,
a
that was the
street
note
sweeper.
that was in the planning board's that was directly from their thing, but that's fine.
I will add a special condition.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
We
Perfect.
did receive a question from one of the people in the audience. Lois Hanley asked a question. Did they figure out where they are entering from to complete the development? Because if they come in from Crane Street, that is private APR land. Lois, they are not pursuing that access from the APR land anymore. Evan noted that at the beginning of his presentation. They'll be eliminating that access. So if you have any other questions, please let us know.
Actually, where is
Well-
that entrance exit, Evan? Are you
That
showing
was
it on
going
the
to
plan?
be
No, I'm sorry, the one that you are going to be using. Is it going to, you going to use the
Oh.
driveway of,
we'll have to create some entrances. So, yeah, we're planning on using the driveway locations for the 3 houses. So we have an entrance here on Crane Street and then 2 off of Pine Street. So again, not to say we're going to show up and start hauling everything away. It's going to take some work to create a suitable entrance and exit. So I suspect that they're going to get there with some smaller equipment, start building the access roads, start opening up some lay down areas, etc., getting some equipment in, and then it'll take some time, but they'll develop those roadway entrances.
So one other thing, obviously, this is not our purview when it comes to blind curves and traffic and things of that nature, but people do fly by this road. So proper signage, when you guys are doing construction is probably something to think about. If it's not mentioned at the planning board meeting, you might need a detail officer too. I don't know. I'm just saying that, at this location, I mean, it's dangerous. So.
Those were brought up about the signage and trying to utilize this area as little as possible. And like you said, once we start breaking in, we might need a detail to start in the beginning to get
Right.
things going
Well,
before we.
I know it's not our purview, but we don't want any cars flying into that wetland. So I'm just saying,
That's how you can make it part of your purview. I like that. That's it.
All right, so any further questions or discussion? Otherwise, we can entertain a motion to close the public hearing for these 3 files, 250-1152, 53, and 54.
So I think we should probably ask the public if they have any other questions.
All right.
So actually, Lois just said, ask another question. She said,
Yeah, if you go ahead.
if dirt that is coming out of lot A, is that going to cause complication with a dangerous corner at that lot, such as erosion at that part of the road? So I think she's talking about sediment tracking. I think that's what she's talking about. Is that correct? That's what I got from it.
Let me reread this. Well, it's a little unclear whether she's concerned that the entrance to Lot A is so close to that dangerous curve that, the blind curve that, a slow moving truck may be a target. So that's where your signage is gonna have to come into.
And I think that that's an important thing for the planning board to make sure they address, because that's obviously outside our purview. But like I said, if cars end up, entering in that well, and then it does become our purview.
I will just make it just maybe a little clearer that, I show an entrance on each one of the lots, but it's not necessary that the material that's on lot A is going to be coming off of the entrance to lot A. It'll likely be, they're going to find one entrance that's going to be better suited, and it'll likely be over the other two entrances and not everything just going over lot A. That'll probably be the least used entrance. And then, yes,
Is there any way to
it will
limit?
have to, yep, go ahead.
Is there any way to just get rid of the entrance to Lot A so it's not so dangerous, and just keep it?
Well, there will be an entrance to lot A, for the
Well, no, I mean
construction of lot A
construction.
and driveway.
She's talking for
No, but
construction
For
purposes.
removing earth purposes, which is totally different than constructing the house, right? So the initial phases of removing that earth, would it not make sense to just get rid of that entrance for A and then put the entrance in just when you're ready to build a house? So that way you don't have 3 exits with potential tracking onto the public roadways.
Yeah, I don't see that way would actually be used for trucking. It's relatively steep. So the other two are flat and they're longer and they have better sight distance. But I didn't want to not put a proposed construction entrance there because there will be activity there for that house, etc. So
Right, but just for the house. So let's separate the earth removal from the house. So I would suggest that entrance only go in once they're ready to build that house. But I guess I'm not in the planning board, but I guess we do own that and exit, right? Because it could have potential tracking and sediment into a wetland. So that's my suggestion if we want to condition it.
All right, so if there are no further questions from anyone, we can consider a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for files 250-1152, 250-1153, and 250-1154.
Second.
We have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Tama. Roll call vote, beginning with Dan and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye.
Tama and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa and Joe.
Aye.
Abstain.
All right, and I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. So,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one quick question, just as far as the next hearing? Is there representation expected, or just are we gonna issue the order, or what happens at the next meeting?
generally, we just deliberate on the order and vote yea or nay.
Okay.
And so that your attendance is not required.
Okay.
And that meeting is on the 24th of June.
I just wanted to know, I'm not gonna be around, so I want to make sure I could set somebody up to come
Do you
along
want-
instead.
Do you want me to send you over a draft of the order that I generate, and so you can see it?
Yeah.
If you have any questions, you can, I guess, send it back for comment.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, well, have a great night, everyone.
But Evan,
too.
I wager you've seen these things before.
Yes, right.
All right. So last continued public hearing is file number 250-1052, Wading River Estates. So we have a representative. You'll have to refresh my memory as to the outstanding items we were discussing. As I understand it, we do have an upcoming site visit, on the 14th, concerning the site, but go ahead, Mr. Dunn.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Brian Dunn with MBL Land Development and Permitting, for the record, with offices at 5 Bristol Drive in Southeastern. I'm the principal of the firm. Yes, you are correct, Mr. Chairman. We do have a site visit scheduled for this Friday at 9 a.m. I have emailed the Conservation Commission's office a stakeout sheet showing the information that we staked out that was requested at the last hearing. We did, so it was easier to see where the roadway was. We also staked out the limits of the center line of the roadway, so you could see that as well. We staked out the erosion control limits that were requested, as well as the basin. So, and just to remind members of the commission and Mr. Thomas, you know, we're asking for a plan amendment, which is really a reduction in the length of roadway, reducing pavement, we're increasing open space, and we are still complying with the stormwater rules and regulations, and the TSS removal is required in the town as well as the DEP. So I think we do have a better project for the commission to, you know, vote for an amendment. But I wanted to make sure that we were addressing all of those concerns and showing you everything on the site, as well as we did get a couple of prices for peer review. It is my understanding that our client has submitted a check and authorization for one of them. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe John can tell us who's going to be looking at this revised set of plans.
Was that today?
No.
When was that?
As far as I know, they sent out a check to you guys last week, is what they told me.
I didn't receive anything.
Did they email us requesting which peer reviewer? Because we don't have any correspondence.
Okay, so then I will follow up with my client tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and
But it was my understanding that they chose one and sent a check into the town.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out, and maybe they sent it in with a copy of the proposal so that hopefully it has that name on it.
Okay.
All right, any questions from commission members, or for that matter, anyone else?
I had something come up work-wise on Friday, and I can't make it. It's gonna be too tight. So I'm hoping somebody else can be able to walk it as well Friday.
So I guess the question is, who is available Friday at 9 a.m. since we're all here? That's why I asked the
Well,
question.
I expect to be there. I just need to know the nearest house number so that I can go to the appropriate location. Because this is fairly, I mean, it's not obvious exactly where this spot is, or that,
Yeah, it's adjacent to 108. So the
Okay.
proposed roadway, if you're facing number 108, would be to the left of the driveway to 108. But I do want to caution the commission members. This is not going to be an easy sidewalk. It's very, very thick.
so I should bring my machete?
Yeah, well,
I have one, Julian. You can borrow mine.
I'm planning on bringing a machete. So hopefully we can find everything that the survey has staked out for us.
Well, my understanding is that the surveyors probably cut some great line that we can walk through. So
Well, I'm
not
hoping
worried.
I'm hoping that they did. John, you weren't at the last meeting. I know I met with you and we went over kind of, a while ago what the changes were going to be. But, the commission members, rely heavily on you. So did you have any comments on what we've submitted so far as revised plans?
I mean, I saw what you've submitted. And, you know, most of these redevelopment kind of or amendment projects that are prior to my tenure here with the town, those decisions that were made previously with the permits, I usually let those be. For this project, I mean, obviously, I look at it as a clean slate. Just want to make sure that the stormwater is good, and you know, if the commission members are interested in seeing the site, you know, this is on the docket for a long time, and you know, just kind of see a lot of these sites, these larger sites, and see if they're interested in seeing exactly, you know, what things look like before and kind of during and then after construction kind of thing.
Yeah, understood. And the commission may remember, we went through an extensive peer review with your consultant at the time, John Cheshire, who has, you know, varied opinions on certain things. But we addressed all of his comments to ensure the commission was happy with their consultant's review as well as us performing and addressing his comments. So I would not expect anything different this time.
Right, and I think it's understandable that if a project meets all the performance standards of the Stormwater and Wetlands Protection Act, I don't foresee it being an issue. It's just going through the standards and making sure that they meet, you know, the specifications that are outlined. As it pertains to the commission, we've got a fair number of new members who were not here when that first project went through. So I think it's good for them to get an understanding of what they're looking at and kind of get a better understanding as to kind of the projects from infancy stage to final construction.
Understood. Okay. So I guess the question to Mr. Chairman and members of the commission is, do we have enough people that can do the sidewalk walk on Friday, or do we need to reschedule it?
I unfortunately also, like Lisa, have a conflict that won't allow me to go. But I would like to be there, but I think if there are other members that can make it, that they shouldn't, yeah.
I'm unavailable on Friday.
Okay. So this, if I may, Mr. Chairman, we emailed you the stakeout sheet. As you know, once we submit a application to your commission, you have the ability to access the site at any time and walk the site on your own, whether you're by yourself or as a group. So with that, I would like to make sure that you have that you understand you do have the ability to do that at any time, as well as Mr. Thomas, and take a walk through the site and see things as we've staked them out. If you need myself or someone from my office to meet you there, we can do that as well.
Yeah. Well, as of now, I do have availability on Friday morning, and I expect I will be walking the site. And John, I assume you will be as well. So after that, if there are other members that want to walk the site, I will be glad to walk it with them at the time that they're available. So I think we're going to be able to address walking the site and seeing what's staked out adequately, and then we'll bring it back to the meeting next time, discuss it, and then I'm assuming we can vote on the amendment.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll be meeting right now at 9 o'clock on Friday and continuing until what, the 24th?
The 24th is our next meeting, correct?
Okay.
So any further questions? Otherwise, we can continue and do the site walk and revisit this on the 24th.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for file 250-1052.
Second.
I think Paxton beat you there, so it's a motion by Lisa, seconded by Paxton. Lisa and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Joe and Paxton?
Aye. Aye.
And Dan and Tama?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So, Mr. Dunn, we will talk to you again on the 24th.
Okay, and I'll see you on Friday morning.
If you're gonna be there, yes.
Yes,
you
sir.
will.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Very good.
Thanks for coming in.
Okay, you're very welcome. I'll see you Friday.
All right, our next item on the agenda, this completes our continued public hearings. We are now on the section of requesting certificate of compliances or extensions. These are all fairly low numbers, 250-543, 94 North Worcester Street. I might have had a memory of it, but how long ago was that, John?
Quite some time ago.
And I'm assuming we can definitely issue a certificate of compliance.
Everything looks like it's natural out there, so yes.
Looking for a motion on a full certificate of compliance on file number 250-543.
Right, motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Mark. Lisa and Joe,
Aye.
Abstain.
Mark and Paxton,
Aye. Aye.
and Tama and Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye as well, so we have, I think, 6 ayes and 1 abstention. Next item is file number 250-585. And I do recall this concerns the old Honeydew Dominant order of conditions. And I think that the date was 2004 on that. So this is the nested egg inside the current one.
This was the project that was not pursued. So they never pursued the renovations and redevelopment of the parcel per this permit. So since no work was done to that plan, the commission can acknowledge that and issue that no work to the plan was done as part of the COC.
All right.
All right, I'll make a motion to issue a full certificate of compliance for file 250-585.
Second.
We have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Joe, and Dan and Lisa, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Mark and Joe,
Aye.
Aye.
and Tama and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. And then we have,
Thank you.
I'm kind of wondering, this must be a typo. 250-22A, is it, or is it 228?
No, it's 22A.
It's really 22A.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does it relate to?
Relates to an enforcement order that was by my predecessor for disturbance within the riverfront over near the Goat City Pub.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. I looked at that map. It's the, there's a big building there that abutted right up smack dab against the wetland. And they removed some material. So it is all replanted and in compliance now. Is that your assessment, John?
The area that they have on the plan, those plantings are in. From my understanding is that the area was infested with autumn olive previously, and that, for instance, they should keep up with the management of the autumn olive as they move forward with the property. This whole entire COC request is at the reason for it is because the property is going through an exchange and they are looking to close out any past permits, and the potential buyer understands the provisions that they're going to be tasked with moving forward. And that's why, for instance, I wanted to ensure that we put in the conditions for the invasive species management monitoring and management of the property as it moves forward.
All right,
So that language will be included in the
Yes.
COC.
Yes.
Okay. So, I'll make a motion to issue, I guess it's a full COC and release of an enforcement order
Correct.
for 250-22A.
Second.
so we have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Joe. Lisa and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Mark and Joe,
Aye.
Aye.
Tama and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye, so motion carries. We are now at 300 South Washington Street. We have a order of conditions, which are in the standard format. Nothing really exciting or complicated questions, revisions, motions.
I thought it looked fine. I will make a motion to issue the order of conditions for file 250-1151 as written.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Mark. Lisa and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Mark and Joe,
Aye.
Aye.
Tama and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. We are now at the draft minutes of 5:20. I have a couple of questions on this. They're kind of at the back. Anybody have anything before that? So we had 300 South Washington Street was a motion to continue, which we just dealt with. And then we had 61 West Main Street. So I don't have page numbers, but this is kind of the last two pages. And then we had 60R, which was a motion to continue. Then we get to 300 South Worcester Street. And I thought we issued an order of conditions for them. 360 South Worcester Street, is that?
You're right, I just copy and pasted incorrectly.
So this is, all right, so this just needs to be, oh, I see, yes. All right, so we do have the section of the order of conditions. And so you just need to correct the motion to continue. And then the same with 18 Country Club Way. And then we reviewed the draft minutes. So it's just those two. Is that right, Megan?
Yes.
Any further comments, questions?
I don't have any comments about, oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, no, I was gonna make a motion to approve them, but do you have a comment on them?
Let's do that. That's all right, let's do that.
All right, I'm in.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the draft minutes 5/20/24 as with edits as discussed.
Second.
So we have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Paxton. Lisa and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
Joe and Mark,
Aye.
Aye.
Tama and Paxton,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. We're at old business, new business, Rose Farm update. John, I think, yeah. you're
Yeah,
on.
sure. So I drafted up some information for the board to take in, I guess, for an understanding of how the process went for this lease agreement. Just need the commission to kind of initiate this whole process. I have a lease agreement. If you're interested in seeing it, I can send it over to you, but the procurement officer for the town manager, has sent it through legal counsel, and they're comfortable with the lease language and everything. And it's really out of my hands when it comes to that kind of stuff. I just went on the agricultural website and kind of put something together on paper. I sat down with the leasee and the town manager, and we kind of hashed things out to kind of get through a lease agreement. So we collaborative put something together, and we have come to an agreement. Informally, just need basically the commission's blessing to initiate this. And I talked to Julian about it. I showed him the lease agreement and everything. So, but if anyone has any questions, the leasee is basically looking to initiate operations as soon as possible. And so far we've kind of made preparations to make it, I guess, okay for him to start doing the work. So he's made some preparations ahead of the game, but as such, he has done a great job with kind of maintaining the property. We had it managed and cleared, so it looks good. We're just waiting to basically get the go ahead.
So, we need a formal vote.
I think it would be appropriate to get a formal vote. So
Yeah.
Can I just make two suggestions on it?
Mhm.
And I lost my spot. Hold on a second. There was one minor typo and then one change that I'm having a hard time finding. But the first one was on the first Roman numeral 1, number 1. The owner shall arrange to assist the lessee. It should be to obtain a public water supply tap. And then so that's minor. There was a section in here that said something to the effect of that the lessee is permitted to grow vegetables, flowers, or something. Again, I'm having a hard time finding that section. I'll let you know when I find it. But I was going to propose we say something a little bit more broad to say, agricultural activities, just so that they're not. I couldn't foresee in a case where this would come up, but I just envisioned, wanting to engage in some activity that still falls within agricultural activity, but doesn't neatly fit within those specific words that were used. So I don't want them to be boxed in. And I'm really struggling to find that section right now.
No, and I understand it. And just so that the commission understands this, is that the lease agreement is written in a way where it's a tenure of a 5-year period, and then they have the option to basically renew the lease for another 5 years, and then renew it for another 5 years. So that was the terms that were recommended, and that language was from the leasee as to kind of what he envisions, or they envision putting in there. So I just incorporated it that way. But we're not really locking it. Obviously, if the terms of this agreement were to default, then I would say that we could definitely, for the next lease agreement, make it more broad. But those terms were discussed and they were hashed out with the leasee, and the procurement officer didn't seem to have an issue with it. So,
okay. So there would be a natural opportunity to reword that in 5 years, or
in 5 years,
probably less time if they really wanted to. But
yeah, and if they want, if say for instance the leasee decided that this was not something they wanted to pursue anymore, the next potential opportunist leasee would be able to revise that agreement to their liking, as long as it met our standards for what we want to have there for agricultural purposes.
Yep.
So Mark, what are you thinking that would not fit in the vegetables or flowers?
that's what I was struggling to think of. When I read it, my first thought was that it was so specific that I worried it could hinder the ability to do something that didn't neatly fall in that. So I don't know if they wanted to have a small chicken coop and raise sell eggs or something like that. It wouldn't fit within that definition, the activities that were proposed there. And I guess to be fair, would the commission be okay with that being an activity on the property? It's, you know, it's not just my call, but I was more comfortable with something a little bit more broad than whatever that section said.
That's a good point.
There's a lot more that's invested when you talk about husbandry and things of that nature, and I think the leasee that is taking this opportunity on is not pursuing that as part of their operations. But I do agree, in the future, you know, obviously we can think about that for potential other leasing opportunities if this one you know, defaults or doesn't want to pursue the property any further. I think that could definitely be something that, you know, could be an option for the commission to consider with altering or I guess changing.
Right. And for the record, it was, of course, right at the top. It's under letter B where it says for growing fruit, flowers, and vegetables. Again, that seemed to be broad enough to cover the activities that he was the lessee is proposing here. But I don't know. Again, a little beehive or something. Would that be? It seems like we'd probably be okay with that, but it wouldn't fit within those that language. So that's why I was just proposing something more broad.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think a beehive would be an objection, but I assume.
What about emus?
Which?
What about emus?
I think
emu,
Norton used to have an emu farm. I don't think they're in business anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I assume Rose Farm was part of a dairy farm at one point. But anyone who wants to go into dairy in this terrain without the kind of support, I mean, they would have to do dairy and make cheese and all kinds of specialty things. It'd be a tough thing to start up from scratch. But that's I think if things go well, and it's potential for expanding the operation, in 5 years, that would be a great discussion.
So John, wouldn't we entertain a motion once the lease agreement's accepted by town council? Because otherwise, what are we voting on? I mean,
I just want you to accept the lease agreement for the pursuance of initiating.
Well, we can accept it if it isn't written yet, right?
It's written.
No, it's written.
It's written.
No, it's written, but it says it's not been. It's under advisement. It isn't legal still looking at it.
Well, I think part of the advisement is the commission has to vote on it, just as we vote on the reservoir kayak agreement.
Yes.
Okay. So the motion should. Yes, I'm going to make a motion then that we I don't know how to word this. That we are in agreement, or
we approve the lease.
Well, the lease hasn't been drafted. Well, it's been drafted, but it hasn't been approved yet. So we can't approve something that hasn't been through legal yet. That's my point.
So
wait a minute.
No. Legal.
It has been through legal.
Legal was reviewed under advisement through legal, so they looked through it. They made sure that the language within the lease agreement was adequate for the town, and that's what I'm trying to say there is that they're not the ones that are going to approve the lease the lease agreement, but they're going to take it under advisement and review it, make sure it's within conformity to what they would want the town to basically pursue. So it's correct in every sort of legal term for administering. So I don't know how to word it any better than that, but they're okay with it.
Okay, so the select board will end up signing it, similar to the who owns
I think we signed it. We signed it. The Norton
kayak. We signed the kayak, yeah.
Right. So what I would ask the commission is through the chair to be able to sign on behalf of the commission, and the members just vote that the chair is able. That way I don't have to get everybody's winning signature, is just give need the authorization or to talk to Julian about having sign it for everybody else here on the commission. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, so the first motion is to, I guess that we're in agreement with the lease agreement?
If you,
Approve the lease agreement?
yeah, I think just authorize the signing of the lease agreement.
Well, yeah, then there's the second part of that is to, that Julian has signatory authority. That's I guess the second part of the.
Okay, I think you can combine those.
Yeah, it was one.
Okay, so we have a motion made by these.
I'm
And
pretty
John is
sure
voting
it was one.
and we just need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Lisa, seconded by Dan. Lisa and Paxton, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Dan
Aye.
and Tama?
Aye.
I'll vote an aye, and I think we'll register Joe as a
Abstention.
or a recusal, one of the
Yeah.
other. Either way, abstention. All right, so the next item, zoning bylaw.
So I just wanted to inform the commission that the planning and zoning is going to be revising their bylaw coming up within the next year. They've circulated some information through Mark Bobrowski. He's a known gentleman here in the Massachusetts. He's revised a lot of, I guess, zoning bylaws here in Massachusetts. So they got a grant to help with the rewriting and codification of the bylaw. So there's some questions and things that I've been asking for as it pertains to our purview. But it's not in a working order for me to comment any further. So I'm going to wait till a 90% draft's complete and then probably circulate it to the commission for comments, see if they have any as it pertains to, I guess, how it affects us. But I'm going to be working, and if anyone from the commission would like to be a little bit more involved in that process, please let me know, and we can just work together. And I wanted to also inform the commission that the Water Bodies Commission is resurfacing, no pun intended, and we're going to be looking for a Conservation Commission floating member. So if anyone is interested in joining as a floating member, the Water Bodies Committee, let me know. And then also discussion of our conservation bylaw, if that is something that the commission wants to pursue. I need a small committee to work on that. The plan would potentially have something draft in order for next spring. So if I don't know, you guys want to discuss them all at once, I guess.
Well, I still have PTSD from our last attempt, but that's I just don't think it's politically feasible. And I think the Wetland Protection Act and the Stormwater regulations really do protect the interest of the homeowner, which is the key issue.
So I guess the question that I'm gonna propose is that, do we want to wait until the new stormwater regulations come out to see kind of how those fit for us as well? Because I think they're going to be a little bit more restrictive with single family residential as we move forward as well. I mean, I don't know, having LID improvements for each site, I mean, that's a positive. It's going to help us all out. But it's also a discussion item that I want to make sure. I mean, I just need feedback from the commission. I mean, we got a full board tonight, so this is great. But if this is something that the commission, feels we could secure and kind of potentially, move forward, great, I'll work on it and I'll work with a small committee and we'll do it. But if you think it's basically a lost cause, then I won't pursue it, and I will look at, doing other things here in town that could potentially benefit us as well. So I just need some feedback on how to, I guess, itemize and kind of distribute my time as we move forward. So,
Well,
yeah, looking for feedback.
I mean, I think getting a whole structured bylaw through town meeting is an extraordinarily difficult thing. I think that there are many in town who say it's regulatory overreach and that kills it. But I think one alternative is if we can draft a remodeling or new home construction handbook to address some of the interests, such as suggest that people consider ground infiltrating runoff structures, even if it's a swale that retains rainwater, and we may get better. Well, compliance isn't the right word, but better traction in terms of people understanding that, you can't just dump water on your neighbor, and we want to purify and retain groundwater and things like that. So I think as an information sheet, we're more likely to get more compliance than trying to get something through town hall, town meeting.
I think enough time although I still have PTSD as well. I think enough time has passed, and I think there's been enough development pressure. We have more butters coming out to public hearings, and I personally think they may be more amenable. And I'm not looking at, to me, the important thing is not stormwater, because the state's taking care of that. The state is taking care of that ad nauseum. It's coming down to me, in my viewpoint, is the increasing the width of the no touch zone, no disturb zone, which almost every other commission has, as well as affording more protection for vernal pools and isolated land subject to flooding. So to me, those are the important things where the gap is definitely in the Wetlands Protection Act. And I think, I think those are manageable chunks for people. And I think they may be more amenable to it, seeing the amount of development in this town right now.
Well, I think if you restricted it to new development, you would be more likely to get it passed.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Maybe the best thing for me, and something that couldn't hurt, is, I think, John, you said you were gonna post something in the Google Drive. So I guess what we would do is bylaw and use that as a template and just rewrite it. I mean, somebody like me needs to have something before him. I wouldn't be able to just make something up out of my head. Even if I looked, I suppose, at the other bylaws of other towns, but well, maybe, I don't know. I'm freer in about a week and a half, and I'd like to take a look at it again. If you have a digital copy of our old bylaw, does it sound reasonable that could be looked at as sort of a template? I mean, to be rewritten. I'm seeing unstable network connection.
Dan,
I think all networks are unstable these days.
Yeah, you've been going in and out, but it's okay. So what I can do is I said that I have a simplified bylaw, which I went through and I kind of took some of the more intensive stuff out of to make it more generalized. to start, and then, for instance, we can add stuff to it. And obviously comments and feedback from the commission is going to be vital in this whole kind of process if we were going to do it. It's just, you know, stripping it and then adding stuff that we think is important, like Lisa said, you know, vernal pool protection, we said isolated land subject to flooding, and you know, just and the increase of the no disturb zone. I think those are three things that we could definitely highlight, you know, in a simplified bylaw. And I don't think, and then stressing new development constraints, you know, making it more, you know, towards that. I think, you know, the general public will see that as an overall improvement. You know, what we currently have, you know, kind of what I was indicating with the earth disturbance this evening was the planning board has more protection and more sensitivity when there's an earth disturbance project than we do. And I find that kind of, you know, inconsistent. And, you know, that's been like that since the 70s when the bylaw was put in place. So, you know, the challenge that I have is, you know, I just want to make things more consistent and, you know, make it so that way the commission has the utmost, you know, authority when it comes to the protection of wetlands. You know, no other agency should have that kind of in there as a standard. We should be the ones that are administering that. We should be the ones that are enforcing it. You know, and the policies are great. I will say they definitely do. And the guidance documents are great, but the challenge is that it's not enforceable. And that's where I struggle, is that, you know, someone says, oh, somebody did some work, you know, within 25 feet. Okay. You know, they should have probably done filed for a permit. Oh, they cut some vegetation, you know, it's like, it's just, you know, we need to make a little bit so that way I have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to enforcement policies. Because unfortunately, I have a lot of standards and performance things that I have to go by from the act, and I don't have enough enforcement kind of action that I can take towards things. And, you know, if we want to make sure that people aren't doing stuff correctly, I need to be able to have that as a safeguard and just basically provide people in the future for the enforcement reasons. So I think it was discussed that, you know, Dan, you and Paxton might be the liaisons for this, you know, spearheaded committee. So Dan, you said you have availability in the next week and a half. So let's
in a week and a half, yes.
Okay. So in a week and a half. So let's reconvene. Obviously, you know, hopefully by the next meeting we'll have kind of a update to provide the commission as to kind of whether we looked at the draft and what you guys think, and then maybe we can, you know, have a presentation. I don't know, Paxton, how are your PowerPoint skills?
I can do PowerPoints as similar to Dan, you know. Obviously, a little bit more challenges when it comes to envisioning something and putting it on paper, but in terms of actually writing the bylaw, but I want to be involved. I can, you know, PowerPoint skills are probably pretty good. But yeah, I'm happy to also get involved, and I think just having something is a start, even if they weren't to actually move very far in the town. So.
John, can you do this? Can you send out both your newer streamlined version and whatever the
I will send you both versions. The one that got denied by the town and the one that I've kind of gutted. And I will do that both. And I guess as we're talking, Joe, Tama, Mark, what are your thoughts? I want to hear feedback from everybody. I want everybody's input.
I don't know. I guess I'm a bit more pessimistic about chances of something like this, just with past votes on other issues in the town. I think I shared the last time that we had this conversation. To me, the default answer for a lot of things proposed is always no. So you have to sell it as what's in it for me, for people to be flipped to a yes. So I don't know.
You know, maybe we should have a town meeting that everybody attends before the other town meeting, where they just get out all their frustrations and everything they're mad about, and then have the town meeting the next day. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, all I can say for myself is that this is not, like, on a personal level, this is not my priority for town stuff that I'm dealing with. There's some other stuff that I think, maybe after the special election, I could think about it more. About what it would look like, or what I could even devote for time to help with any of it, but.
But
But I guess the question is, do you think that it would be a good thing to pursue? I guess that's the question that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should, but I personally don't have the bandwidth or energy for it, probably until at least the fall.
Yeah, but bear in mind, the last time this was presented, we never got to the part where the details of what was being proposed were even discussed. There was this, fellow who owned at the time Blueview Nurseries, who was a skilled speaker. He
I think he still owns Blueview.
What's that?
Anthony Coliano, he still owns Blueview. So.
Yeah, but he lives outside of town, so town meeting had to give him permission to speak, and then it was, he did all those things that a good political speaker does, and of course, it was tank this invasion of our life. And so, you spend a lot of time putting together a well thought out and logical thing, and then this fellow is going to come on back and make it impossible. So,
Julian, you raise that's an excellent point, and I would make the exact same point that without a strong bylaw, people can just do whatever the hell they want in town, and we will have all these people invading our town and building into the wetland. And to me, that's an invasion. A few weeks back, a few meetings back, the gentleman said, I guess it was somebody on Reservoir Street. He said, "You're not going to get anything built at all." And I said, "Why is that a bad thing?" Really, to me, the invasion is people building new things in our town that are just taking up the space and the wetlands and cutting down the trees. That's a much more meaningful invasion than saying that you can't build within 50 feet of a wetland. You can't.
Yeah, but nobody's filling up.
We hope.
The wetland protection.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm talking about the no disturb zone.
So, Joe, anything you want to add, I guess, to this discussion?
Absolutely. My pure belief on this is, if we're going to approach it to anyway before town meeting, maybe we pick 2, 3, 4, 5 things at the most, keep it very simple, keep it vague. Once we get a bylaw, we can start to add to it. If we bombard anyone with anything that's offensive, we're going to be up against a battle that will be like before. So I think we have to pick a few key items and focus on them. And even if we don't have to put a ton of time in, if they shoot that down, we didn't kill ourselves developing another huge plan that's going to go nowhere. If we get 2, 3, 4, 5 items in, then the next meeting we add 1 or 2. And I think that will help make it simpler. We won't overload people who don't understand what we're asking for. And, the tides don't get turned that fast that way by so much input from people who aren't focused on what we're focused on.
John, can we keep it very general in terms of the bylaw? Because the bylaw lets you promulgate regulations, right?
Yep, that's correct. And that's the next point that I was going to get to.
Yes. So the bylaw just allows the commission to come up with regulations to enforce. So how general can we keep the bylaw?
I can keep it very skeleton. And then we can just add some language saying that within a year, the commission will promulgate regulations which will administer, whatever we want to administer.
Yeah.
But I think
that's the part that makes me a little uneasy, simply because we're an all volunteer group and we're not accountable to voters. We don't represent any particular folks in town. So I guess I'd want to take a good look at that to say we don't want to have unlimited authority again because we're not an elected group here. So I guess
Well, if the town, but if the town agrees to it, then we have it.
so. I will say that if when we do this, is that my plan would be to look at the most generalized bylaw and the most generalized regulations and use that as a base, and then look at other towns which are within arm's reach of us and see what their bylaw and regulations are. And if I was going to present this at town meeting, I would show the public what other towns are doing, which are way more restrictive than us, and how this is not very restrictive. It just aids us with any sort of appeal case through DEP. And that's it.
Can I just ask one thing, John? If everything, say we're, in a year from now and it's passed and all this stuff, how are you gonna be able to enforce anything with the staff and what you have available to you for resources?
I don't think it's about enforcement, it's planning. So for instance, people aren't coming to us up to the 25-foot anymore. It's a planning
Okay.
exercise. They're gonna respect the
Gotcha.
50. It's nothing more that John has to do.
It's when
Okay.
when they don't follow the rules, or they after the fact, let's say someone gets a permit and they decide to clear cut an area which on their plan they know they shouldn't be doing, but they do. It's the same thing that we have here currently. Is that, if they wanted to get a COC, well, you can't, because you got to do mitigation for that. And that's part of the job. That's part of the requirements I'm tasked with doing. That's why I get, paid to work on your behalf is, I do the work for the town under the Conservation Commission. So it's part of my job description.
Okay, all right, that's good. I thought it would require more oversight from you.
No. So what I'm hearing from the commission is that the thought process is to generate a very non-complex, very basic bylaw general. And do you want me to work on promulgating some regulations as a draft, or do we want to hold off on that for right now?
I think we should hold off on that. Let's get the bylaw passed first. And because I think we know where we're going with the regs, which is again, not going to be any more than, like Joe said, I can only think of 3 or 4 things on my wish list there.
And that's,
I think the town needs.
I'm in agreement with you, Lisa, on those 3 things.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I will work on drafting something up for the subcommittee that is Dan and Paxton, and we will collaborate and have potentially something on the books for the next meeting. Does that seem reasonable, guys?
That seems reasonable.
Okay. So we will put together something for review and discuss at the next meeting. And that's all I have this evening.
I just have a very quick kind of operations question and question for those who've been on the board or just more familiar. To vote, opposed for a project like a COC, based on the basis that, even if it meets regulations, but it might not necessarily align with just the reality of, what we see in the town and what measures might be needed. There really is no power, I guess, right, on the conservation end, even if it were denied, because it could then be appealed to Mass DEP and then approved, right? That's the correct process, but the ability and the power to obviously oppose is still there. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
It's been opposed yet. I'm just curious, how that works and any thoughts behind it.
Let me comment on that. So the Wetland Protection Act, which is when I came involved with this, we don't have to talk about that story, but it was a state law that was passed with the requirement that it would be locally administered. So volunteers would staff a commission locally, but your role was to administer this law. So in spite of your preference for, reducing the density of development and so on, those things can't really enter into your decision to approve or disapprove. If the project is according to the requirements of the Wetland Protection Act, as an objective volunteer, you need to approve the project, because as you point out, if everyone decides, I don't like that project, even though it's consistent with the law, the applicant just appeals. And if it's consistent with the law, then it gets approved at the next level up.
So what you're saying is, and I do know the Wetland Protection Act is basically what we're, promoting and trying to enforce as volunteers, but nothing beyond that, even like on a town level, like what, interpretation that on the town level.
Yeah, but see, that's where a local bylaw comes in. And if you can convince the town that it is in the best interest of the town to have bylaw requirements that are perhaps more stringent than the Wetland Protection Act, then you have a basis, a legislative basis or a legal basis in which to enforce a more restrictive requirement.
Thank you.
The danger, Paxton, just quickly, is if somebody appeals to DEP has three avenues. Okay, so we can issue a superseding order, and they can throw out all of our conditions that we wrote so hard that are local that we like to see, and they can just uphold their own, and they're mostly just blanket crappy. Just
there's like six conditions, and that's it.
That's it. They can throw ours out, they can adopt their own, or they can uphold both. And they usually just adopt their own because it's the easiest way out. So that's the danger, is that they don't have the local, knowledge where we add very specific conditions about a site. They'll just throw it out.
Hmm.
That's the danger. You lose control.
That's good to know.
Yeah, you're hard pressed to deny something, and we shouldn't be denying something that meets the act.
Mm-hmm.
This is the bottom line. We might not like it.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what
Yeah.
And I think if you want to pursue policy that change the way a town can be developed, I think that's would that be planning primarily? But even there, what you can do within a town has to be approved at the state level as well. You can't just decide, nobody else can build a house in this town.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, well, it's not consistent with the state constitution, so you can't do that.
Yeah, the revisions to the zoning bylaw, as I referenced earlier, will have to go for state review. So they will go through that process, and but like I said, this will be something that I'll work on. And I will have something ready for the next time we meet, hopefully for the board to take a look at. And like I said, I'll try to make it as simple as possible. And Lisa's point there, I mean, the reason why to have a bylaw is in the event that we do have an appeal, the state doesn't have the authority to instill the 6 conditions that they instill. They still have to basically go through our provisions and our conditions, and we just want to make sure to be able to have, control of projects if they were going to go through an appeal process. We haven't had that happen yet, but it will happen eventually, and I just want to make sure that we're prepared for that as we move forward. So that's all I have tonight. So I'll throw out a motion to adjourn if everybody's good with that.
If I can add one quick thing that's totally unrelated. I had an opportunity to have Megan's husband John's food from his new food truck. It was delicious, and I'll be a regular customer there. Encourage
Oh,
everybody
where is
to
it?
come a visit.
Yeah.
Oh, where is it?
So
What is
for,
it?
for Scott Drive, and Megan, he is open what 11 to
11 to 6 on Saturdays.
What's the name of it?
Fat Johnny's Burgers and Bites.
All right, I can look it up.
I had a burger and a hot dog, and they were both great. So compliments to the chef.
Thank
My-
you. He's very happy about it.
my son had a slider and a piece of grilled cheese, so he enjoyed it very much.
All right.
Oh, do we need a second?
Unfortunately.
I'll second.
All right, I'll third it. Good night, all.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody. Good night.
Bye.